I walked into my parents' dining room that Sunday morning carrying hope I had no right to still possess. The newspaper was already on the table front page above the fold, my photograph staring back at me with a headline I'd read 20 times. Local educator awarded $2.4 million federal grant for revolutionary STEM program. I'd driven 3 hours for this. For what I thought would finally be the moment they saw me. My father picked up the newspaper and for one stupid second I thought he was going to read it aloud. Instead he slid it across the table toward me like evidence in a trial. "This is exactly the kind of attention-seeking behavior we raised you not to do," he said. "You're embarrassing this family." My mother didn't even look up from her eggs. $2.4 million to babysit children. Your cousin Michael made that in profit from his firm last year. Without needing a handout. 12 years of teaching. 3 years of grant writing. A national competition with 847 proposals submitted and only 8 awarded. Mine scored a 98 out of 100. My program would serve 5,000 underserved students over 5 years. I'd beaten out proposals from researchers at MIT and Stanford. I'd actually believed this would be different. My brother Jason sat across from me scrolling through his phone, not even pretending to care. My father looked genuinely annoyed, like I'd shown up to ruin his morning with my achievement. That's when I noticed my younger sister Emily standing in the doorway, her face stricken. She'd brought the newspaper. She thought they'd finally be proud. She was wrong. My father set down his coffee. "When are you going to get a real job, Sarah? You're 34. Michael was a partner by 32. Even Emily is finally making decent money in pharmaceutical sales. You're still teaching." The way he said that last word like it was a disease. I stood up. Picked up my purse. And walked out. I drove to my hotel room and made a decision I should have made a decade earlier. But to understand why this moment destroyed me, you need to see what I survived to get here. I was supposed to be the success story. Perfect SAT scores. Valedictorian. Acceptance letters from Stanford, Berkeley, and Northwestern. My parents had arrived in California in 1976 with 2 suitcases and a plan: work brutal hours, sacrifice everything, build a life where their children would have opportunities they never did. And I did have opportunities. I just chose the wrong one. In the Chin family, success had a specific formula: high income plus prestige. My father David was a software engineering executive pulling in over $400,000 a year. My mother Linda had been an accountant before she retired to manage family investments and orchestrate our social standing in the Chinese American community. They'd built their entire identity around achievement you could quantify. Medicine. Law. Engineering. Executive track business. Those were acceptable. Everything else was failure with extra steps. My brother Jason understood the assignment. Harvard Law corporate attorney, $350,000 a year, married to another attorney. He was the son they showed off at dinner parties. My younger sister Emily had tried to rebel with an art degree but eventually came to her senses and took a pharmaceutical sales job at $180,000. She was forgiven. Then there was cousin Michael, my father's nephew, the family gold standard. Investment banking. Multimillionaire by 35. The person I was compared to at every single gathering. And me? I wanted to teach. I actually thought my parents' immigrant story would make them understand. They'd struggled. They'd been underestimated. Shouldn't that make them value the person who helps kids nobody else believes in? I was naive. Teaching is a backup career for people who can't do anything else, my mother told me when I was 17. I chose it anyway. I thought if I was excellent, truly excellent, they'd see. They didn't come to my college graduation. Told relatives I was still figuring out my career path. Never mentioned my master's degree in educational leadership to anyone. When I won Teacher of the Year for the county in my 3rd year, my mother said, "That's nice, but when will you do something serious?" My father told Marcus, my boyfriend at the time, "Sarah's smart enough for better. Maybe you can convince her." I kept believing achievement in my field would count. That award's recognition measurable impact would translate into their language of success. I was wrong. But this dismissal wasn't new. It was the culmination of a pattern that started the day I told them I wanted to be a teacher. The first time I understood my parents' love had conditions, I was 18 years old. I'd been accepted to Stanford, Berkeley, and Northwestern. I sat at our dinner table and announced I was choosing Northwestern's School of Education. I wanted to be a teacher. My father set down his chopsticks and walked out without a word. My mother stared at me for 10 seconds before speaking. We didn't sacrifice everything for you to waste it. That was the beginning. 1 week of silence followed, no meals together, no conversations, just the sound of doors closing. Finally my father delivered his verdict. Fine. But we're not paying. If you're choosing to fail, you do it on your own dime. What he didn't say was that they'd been saving for years. $120,000, enough to cover any university's full tuition. They'd told me about it since middle school, calling it our investment in your future. But the investment had conditions. Choose pre-med business engineering and the money was mine. Choose education and I was on my own. I took out loans. Worked 3 part-time jobs tutoring, campus bookstore, weekend catering. Graduated with $85,000 in debt. Jason's law school? Fully funded. Over $200,000 paid without hesitation. Emily's art degree initially got the same treatment I received until she switched to a business minor. Then the money appeared retroactively. The comparisons became relentless once I started teaching. Every family gathering followed the same script. Jason made partner today. Pause. Sarah still teaching middle school. Emily closed a huge pharmaceutical contract. Pause. Sarah got a classroom supply grant for $500. My mother said this mockingly, as if $500 towards student resources was pathetic. Michael bought a vacation home. Pause. Sarah, are you still in that studio apartment? I kept achieving. They kept dismissing. County Teacher of the Year finalist at 26. They didn't attend the ceremony. Told relatives I was busy with work. Master's degree in educational leadership at 28. Full scholarship, graduated top of my class. My mother said that's nice. Too bad it won't increase your salary much. Featured in the State Education Journal at 30 for innovative teaching methods. My mother told her book club I was considering a career change to administration, like my actual career didn't warrant mention. Invited to speak at a national conference at 32. My father asked if I was networking for real job opportunities. When I confronted them about the constant comparisons, the gaslighting was immediate. We're proud of all our children equally. You're imagining favoritism. We talk about Jason's career more because there's more to talk about. That last one was an actual quote. I wrote it down. To extended family and friends, they'd constructed an entirely different narrative. I was finding myself. Still exploring options. Taking time to figure things out. When forced to acknowledge my teaching, it was temporary while she decides what's next. The erasure went deeper than words. At family gatherings, everyone's professional opinion mattered except mine. When my nephew was struggling in school, I offered suggestions based on actual expertise. My mother interrupted, let's ask Michael. He went to private school. He knows about quality education. Michael, who had no children and no education background, was asked for advice over me. Then I got engaged to Marcus, another teacher department head, master's degree, brilliant educator. My parents' first question, what does he really do? When I said he was a teacher, my mother's face fell. She told relatives Marcus was in education administration, a lie. My father told him at the engagement dinner, so what's your exit plan? You seem too smart to teach forever. They gave me $3,000 toward our wedding. Emily's wedding 2 years later received $45,000. When I began writing federal grant proposals, 3 years of work, hundreds of hours, my parents' responses were consistent. That sounds complicated. Is there a salary increase? Grant money isn't real success. It's just government handouts. Jason, so you're basically crowdfunding your job? Every achievement dismissed. Every comparison unfavorable. The message unmistakable. Then came the grant notification, the one that would change everything. I actually believed this would be different. The email arrived between third and fourth period on a Tuesday. I was at my desk half eating a sandwich when I saw the subject line Federal Grant Award Notification, STEM Bridges Program. My hands were shaking when I opened it. Congratulations! Your proposal STEM Bridges Equity-Focused Science Education for Underserved Communities has been selected for funding $2,400,000 over 5 years. I read it 3 times. 847 proposals submitted. 8 funded. A 0.9% acceptance rate. Mine had scored a 98 out of 100 peer-reviewed by leading education researchers at the Federal Department of Education. I would serve 5,000 students across 15 schools. The program included a salary for me as program director and $95,000 annually, significantly more than I'd ever made teaching. My curriculum would become a national model. I cried in my empty classroom. Called Marcus. Called my best friend. Then, despite everything, I called my mother. Mom, I have incredible news. I just found out I won a major federal grant. $2.4 million. It's one of 8 in the entire country. That's nice, honey. Listen, I'm at Mahjong. Can we talk later? Mom, this is huge. This is nationally competitive. My program will. I'm happy for you. We'll talk at Sunday dinner. Click. No congratulations. No tell me more. No excitement. I told myself she didn't understand. Maybe when I explained it in person they'd get it. The following Sunday I drove to their house with a printed copy of the award letter, a 1-page summary of the program's impact, and a news article from an education trade publication. I actually had hope. Genuine stupid hope that this would finally be enough. My parents, Jason and his wife Jennifer, Emily and her boyfriend, everyone was there. After dinner I asked if I could share some news. My father said, keep it brief, we have a busy evening. I stood up anyway. I wanted to share something with all of you. 3 years ago I started working on a grant proposal, a comprehensive program to bring advanced STEM education to underserved schools. Last week I found out I won. It's a $2.4 million federal grant from the Department of Education. Out of 847 proposals nationwide, mine was one of 8 selected. 5 seconds of absolute silence. Jason broke it. So, is this like a teacher's bonus or something? No, it's a 5-year funded program. I'll be the program director. It's a massive validation of my work and it will help thousands of kids. My father interrupted. Will you still be teaching? I'll be directing the program, training other teachers, developing curriculum. So yes, still teaching. My mother didn't even look at me. That's wonderful, dear. Emily, tell everyone about your promotion. Just like that the topic changed. Marcus, sitting beside me, spoke up. Wait, I don't think everyone understands. This is like winning an Olympic medal in education. The acceptance rate is under 1%. Sarah's work was peer-reviewed by top researchers. This is a huge deal. Jason leaned back in his chair. That's great, really. But let's be real, government grants aren't the same as earning money in the private sector. It's taxpayer funded. Jennifer, his wife, asked, how much of that actually goes to you as salary? $95,000 annually as program director. My father set down his fork. After all these years you're finally breaking 6 figures. Jason made that as a second-year associate. Then my mother turned to Emily. Emily, didn't you say your promotion comes with a 6-figure base salary? Emily looked uncomfortable. Mom, that's not really. See, Sarah? Emily's younger and she's already surpassed this. Maybe it's not too late for you to consider pharmaceutical sales. Emily could probably get you an interview. I stared at my mother and realized nothing would ever be enough. Not awards. Not recognition. Not national competitive grants. Not impact on thousands of lives. Because to them teaching wasn't valuable no matter what I achieved. I left early. Emily followed me out and said they're never going to change. I went home and told Marcus I was done trying to win their approval. 2 weeks later the grant announcement went public. The local paper ran a front-page feature: local teacher wins $2.4 million federal grant. They interviewed me, included my photo, discussed the program's impact. Regional news stations started requesting interviews. And I thought somehow I still thought they can't dismiss this. It's public. It's validated. They'll have to acknowledge it. I drove to their house for Sunday breakfast with the newspaper in my hand. My mother was making scrambled eggs. My father was reading on his iPad. Did you see the newspaper? My mother's voice was stiff. We saw it. We need to talk about this, my father said. I felt hope again just for a second. I wanted to. This kind of attention-seeking is inappropriate. We raised you to be humble. I didn't seek this out. The newspaper contacted me. It's a public grant announcement. You gave them an interview, my mother said. You didn't have to do that. It's a good news story. The community is excited about the program. My father's voice had actual anger in it. The community now thinks we raised a daughter who needs government handouts. Do you know how this looks? How this looks? Dad, this is a competitive achievement. My mother interrupted. Your cousin Michael was just featured in Forbes 30 Under 40. That's an achievement. This is nice for what you do, but it's not the same. They were embarrassed. Not proud. Embarrassed. Jason walked in, saw the newspaper on the table and said, "Oh good, you saw it." Mom, Dad, I know you're worried about optics, but Sarah's thing is actually pretty contained. My firm's PR says it's local only, won't make regional news. I turned to him. You consulted your firm's PR about my achievement? Mom asked me to look into it. We wanted to assess reputational impact. Emily arrived then. She'd brought the newspaper, hoping for a different outcome. Can everyone just stop? Sarah, congratulations. This is amazing. I'm so proud of you. My mother looked at her. Don't encourage this. She's 34 and finally making what you made at 29. This isn't success, it's catching up. My father delivered the final blow. When are you going to get a real job, Sarah? You're 34. Michael was a partner by 32. Even Emily is finally making decent money. You're still teaching. The way he said that word. Like it was a disease. Like it was failure. Like it was something to be ashamed of. I stood. Picked up my purse. Looked at both of them. I came here thinking you might finally be proud of me. Instead, you're ashamed that your daughter is good at something you don't value. I'm done. Don't be dramatic. I'm not being dramatic. I'm being clear. I don't need your approval anymore. And I'm not coming back until I get an apology, a real one. You're overreacting. I won a national award. The literal federal government said my work is valuable. Thousands of kids will benefit. But because it's teaching, it doesn't count to you. That says everything about you and nothing about me. I walked out. Emily texted minutes later, I'm sorry. They're impossible. I'm proud of you. Jason texted, you embarrassed Mom and Dad. Was that necessary? My parents sent nothing. Marcus texted, come home. We need to talk about boundaries. I thought walking out would feel powerful. Instead, I just felt hollow. 34 years of trying to earn love from people who were never going to give it. That night, I started researching something I should have looked into years ago: what it actually means to go no contact with family. 3 days after I walked out of that breakfast, I sat in a therapist's office expecting her to help me fix the relationship. Instead, she asked me to tell the whole story. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. Sarah, has anyone ever told you this pattern has a name? What you're describing is textbook scapegoat and golden child family dynamics with cultural achievement pressure layered on top. She explained it carefully. In families like mine, roles get assigned early. Jason was the golden child, he could do no wrong. I was the scapegoat, I could never do right. My achievements didn't matter because my role was to be insufficient. That's what the family system needed to function. Over the next month she assigned me books. Adult children of emotionally immature parents. Will I ever be good enough? Healing the daughters of narcissistic mothers. The Scapegoat Syndrome. I read them all and it was like someone had been filming my life. Scapegoat children often overachieve trying to compensate, but nothing works. Parents need someone to feel superior to. My success threatened the narrative they'd built that Jason was the brilliant one, Emily was the charming one, and I was the one who settled. They'd financially punished my independence by withholding education funding. They'd socially erased my achievements by lying to relatives. They'd emotionally invalidated my entire career through constant dismissal. The cultural layer made it worse. In Chinese immigrant families, individual achievement only counts if it enhances family status. Teaching is a service profession, which in certain frameworks means lower status. My parents measured worth through external validation and income. I'd internalized shame about not meeting their expectations without realizing those expectations were designed for me to fail. 2 weeks after the breakfast, Emily met me for coffee. She looked nervous. Sarah, there's stuff you don't know. Mom and Dad, they talk about you differently when you're not around. How? They tell people you're limited. Like intellectually limited. That you couldn't handle the rigor of real professions. I stared at her. What? I had perfect SATs. I was valedictorian. I know. But they've rewritten it. They tell people you maxed out early and couldn't handle college-level competition, so you chose education. That's insane. I have a master's degree. I've published research. They don't care about facts. They need the story where Jason is the smart one, I'm the charming one, and you're the one who settled. That night, I went through years of family emails and texts with new eyes. I found my mother's email to relatives, Sarah is happy teaching though we'd hoped for more. But not everyone is Jason. I found my father's text to Jason, can you talk sense into your sister about business school? She's wasting her potential. Then I found something worse. A family group chat I wasn't included in. My mother had written about my engagement, at least Marcus has a stable job. Sarah needs someone practical since she isn't. They had literally excluded me from family communication so they could talk about me freely. I created a spreadsheet. Parental investment in each child. Jason $515,000 across undergrad, law school, wedding, and a house down payment. Emily $215,000 for partial undergrad funding her wedding and a business loan she never repaid. Me $3,000. Total. Emily told me something else. Our parents had planned their estate division. Jason would get 50% because he has children and greater financial needs. Emily would get 30%. I would get 20% because she chose a stable low-risk career and doesn't need much. Even in death my work wasn't valued. So I made another list. My actual achievements. County Teacher of the Year. State finalist. 3 peer-reviewed publications in education journals. Master's degree 4.0 GPA. National conference presenter 4 times. Curriculum I designed adopted by over 50 schools. $2.7 million in grant funding secured over my career. Measurably improved test scores and college acceptance rates for my students. I compared it to Jason's career, corporate attorney making wealthy people wealthier. My achievements were more impressive in my field than his were in his. But my field wasn't valued. So neither was I. I started researching, going no contact. I read forum studies, testimonials. I learned that no contact is a legitimate boundary when family is toxic. I discovered that many adult children of immigrant families struggle with filial piety, guilt versus self-preservation. I found a therapist who specialized in cultural family dynamics. I compiled everything. Timeline of achievements versus family responses. Financial disparity data. Screenshots of the group chat I wasn't in. A written summary of patterns. Not for legal action, just for me, so I had concrete proof I wasn't overreacting or too sensitive. Marcus reviewed it all one night. He looked up at me and said, "Sarah, you know what this is? Abuse. Financial abuse, emotional abuse. You've been systematically devalued your entire adult life. But they're not mean. Abuse isn't always yelling. Sometimes it's dismissal. Erasure. Making you feel like you're never enough. That's what they've done." In my next therapy session, my therapist asked a question that changed everything. If you never spoke to your parents again, what would you lose? I thought for a long time. Nothing, I finally said. I'd lose nothing. I don't have their support now. I don't have their approval. I don't have their pride. I don't even have their honesty. What exactly am I protecting by staying in contact? That was the moment I decided. Once I saw the patterns clearly, once I had the evidence, the therapeutic framework, and the support, I knew what I had to do. But I wasn't going quietly. If they wanted to erase my achievements privately, I'd make sure my success was impossible to ignore publicly. I made a decision in those weeks after the breakfast. If my parents were embarrassed by a local newspaper article, I would make my work impossible to ignore. I started accepting every media interview request I'd previously declined. 3 regional TV stations featured segments on the grant and my program. I did education podcast interviews where I discussed my journey and mentioned, without naming anyone, the lack of family support I'd experienced. I submitted a TEDx talk proposal titled "Why We Devalue Teachers and Why That's Dangerous." It was accepted. I created a professional presence on Twitter and LinkedIn documenting the grant program's development in real time. My name and achievement began circulating not just in education circles but in my parents' social community. Their friends saw the news coverage and congratulated them. They were forced to smile and say thank you while seething. Their church celebrated my achievement in the weekly bulletin. The Chinese American Community Center invited me to speak on an education panel. My parents couldn't erase or minimize what I'd done anymore. It was too public. 3 weeks after the breakfast, I sent a letter via email and certified mail. Mom and Dad, after the breakfast on May 14th, I've had time to reflect on our relationship. I've realized that despite my repeated efforts, you do not respect my career, my achievements, or my choices. Effective immediately, I am taking a break from our relationship. This means no phone calls, texts, or emails. I will not attend family gatherings. Contact should only occur through Emily if there is a genuine emergency. This is not punishment. This is self-preservation. I will not continue participating in a relationship where I am constantly devalued. I am open to reconciliation if and when you are able to acknowledge that teaching is a legitimate, valuable profession. Apologize for years of dismissing my achievements and demonstrate through actions that you respect my choices. Until then, I wish you well, but I will not be in contact. Sarah. They responded with immediate angry phone calls I didn't answer. Text messages, "This is disrespectful. We're your parents. You're being dramatic. My father emailed, you're throwing away family over a disagreement. Grow up." No apology. No self-reflection. Jason texted, "This is extreme. They're proud of you in their own way." I wrote back, "Then they can show it in my way or not have a relationship. I'm done accepting crumbs." "You're being selfish," he replied. I blocked him. Emily texted, "I support you. I'm staying in contact with them, but I understand." She became my information boundary. She'd tell me about emergencies, nothing else. 6 months later, Marcus and I got married. My parents weren't invited. The guest list included Marcus's supportive family, my chosen family of mentors and friends, Emily, former students who credited me with their success, and grant program partners. The wedding program included a dedication to the teachers who showed us that education changes lives, and to the families we choose who celebrate us as we are. Emily gave a toast about my resilience. No one mentioned my parents. The photos showed me surrounded by love, just not the biological kind. 8 months after the breakfast, I gave my TEDx talk. I opened with a statistic: teachers are among the most educated and least respected professionals. I discussed cultural messages about valuable careers. I shared my personal story without naming my parents, but I detailed the pattern clearly. I was told by people who loved me that my career helping children learn was a failure, I said. I was told this despite every achievement, every award, every measurable success. And I realized the problem wasn't my career. It was their values. The talk went viral in education communities. Over 150,000 views. Teachers nationwide shared it. Education news outlets featured it. The comments were full of people sharing similar family experiences. Mutual friends sent it to my parents. They watched me publicly discuss being devalued by family. Community members connected the dots. My parents were mortified. Their worst fear, public embarrassment, had been realized. 10 months after the breakfast, my grant program officially launched. The mayor attended. The school superintendent spoke. Local news covered it. I gave a keynote about educational equity. Emily came. My former professors came. My colleagues, Marcus's family, community partners, they all came. My parents and Jason did not. When asked about family support in an interview, I responded diplomatically, my chosen family has been incredibly supportive. In my parents' social circles, people started asking why they hadn't attended the ceremony. Church friends said, you must be so proud. My parents were forced to lie or deflect. Gradually people realized there was a rift. Some mutual friends quietly reached out to me with support. My parents' reputation, the thing they cared about most, began to suffer. 1 year after that breakfast, my life looked completely different. The grant program was exceeding goals. I'd been invited to join a national education advisory board. I'd secured a second grant for $800,000 to expand the program. I was promoted to district STEM director with a salary of $110,000. I was married to Marcus. We'd bought a house without anyone's help. I had a strong friend network, regular therapy, and genuine peace. The most powerful response wasn't anything I said. It was that I stopped talking about my parents entirely. Stopped seeking approval. Stopped explaining. I just lived my successful, meaningful life publicly, and they had to watch from the outside. My parents thought I needed them, their approval, their validation, their presence. But once I removed them from my life, something unexpected happened. I didn't just survive. I thrived. And they had to watch everything they said would never happen without them. Over the next 18 months, my parents faced consequences they never anticipated. Sarah's TEDx talk circulated through the Chinese American community. People started asking pointed questions: why weren't you at Sarah's grant ceremony? Invitations to speak on a parent panel at the community center were rescinded after my parents' treatment of me became known. Friends started distancing. The community valued education, and my parents had devalued an educator. My mother's book club gradually excluded her. Several members were retired teachers. At their church, the youth pastor invited me to speak to high schoolers. I did. My parents found out via the bulletin. The church celebrated my work with underserved kids because it aligned with their mission. People asked my parents why they didn't attend my events. My father was asked to step down from the finance committee for unrelated reasons, but the timing isolated them further. Professionally, the irony was brutal. My father's company launched an education CSR initiative. My program became a partner organization. I didn't even know it was his company until they approached me. His colleagues discovered the connection and asked about his daughter, the education grant winner. He was forced to claim pride he didn't feel. A junior colleague asked if I was speaking at the company education summit. I was. He hadn't known. It was humiliating for him. 18 months after I went no contact, Emily had dinner with our parents and told them she was updating her will. Sarah is executor and primary beneficiary for my estate. Not you. What? Why? Because she's the only one who loved me without conditions. You guys need to think about that. It terrified them. If Emily sided with me, they were losing both daughters. Jason's marriage developed strained too. His wife Jennifer told him your parents were wrong about Sarah. I've been reading about her work. She's more accomplished in her field than you are in yours. And you sided with them. It's complicated. No, it's not. You're letting them treat your sister like garbage. I'm embarrassed for you. 14 months and my parents sent an email through Emily. Sarah, we've noticed you've been successful with your grant program. We're happy for you. We think enough time has passed. Let's move forward as a family. Come to Thanksgiving. Mom and Dad. No apology. No acknowledgement of wrongdoing. Just a demand disguised as an invitation. I responded through Emily, please tell them I received their email. I'm not interested in moving forward without accountability. My terms for reconciliation were clear. They haven't met them. I wish them well, but no. They were furious. They told Emily I was choosing pride over family. Emily told them no, she's choosing her dignity. There's a difference. My parents started telling people Sarah is very busy with her grant program. We're so proud but barely see her. But people increasingly knew the truth. We were estranged. It was their fault. They updated their will, reducing my inheritance from 20 to 10%. Justification, she's made it clear she doesn't value family. They told Emily and Jason, expecting pressure. Emily said, cool. I'll give my portion to Sarah. She earned it more than any of us. Jason said nothing, but his silence bothered him. 20 months after the breakfast, I established a scholarship, the Margaret Chin Memorial Scholarship for Future Educators. $10,000 annually for students pursuing teaching careers. Named after my maternal grandmother who had valued education. The announcement read, for students whose families don't support their calling to teach. You are seen. You are valued. My mother called Emily, crying. She named it after my mother. She's throwing it in my face that we didn't support her. Emily said, or maybe she's honoring grandma who did support her. Not everything is about you. 2.5 years after that breakfast, I won a national teaching award at a conference attended by 10,000 educators. Local news covered it. My father sent his first direct contact in over 2 years. Sarah, congratulations on your award. We've always been proud of you. We hope you know that. Dad. I responded, thank you for the congratulations. However, I don't believe you've always been proud. Your actions showed otherwise. If you want a relationship, my terms haven't changed. Acknowledgement, apology, behavior change. An email doesn't satisfy that. I wish you well. They didn't respond. I told my therapist I used to think if I achieved enough they'd love me the way I needed. Now I understand they're incapable of it. Not because I'm insufficient, but because they're limited. And that's sad for them, but it's no longer my burden. My parents lost a daughter who loved them, achieved greatly, and would have brought them genuine pride if they'd valued the right things. I lost parents who never truly saw me. But I gained myself. That breakfast where my father asked when I'd get a real job, that was the last time I let them make me feel small. 2 years later, I have a real job. I'm living a real life. And I'm really genuinely happy. They just don't get to be part of it. And that's a consequence they'll live with forever. My family said teachers are for failures. They were wrong. Teaching is for people who measure success in lives changed, not dollars earned. I've changed thousands of lives. My parents changed none, not even their own, when given the chance. I know who the failure is. And it was never me. If your family can't celebrate your success because it doesn't fit their definition of worthy, remember this: you don't need their validation. The people whose lives you touch, the work that fulfills you, the respect of your actual peers, that's the validation that matters. Choose yourself. Choose your values. Choose dignity over conditional love. I did. And I've never been freer.